You are listening to the Partner Up podcast by Welcome to Bundaberg. I'm Gail Reynolds, and in this series you will hear from community leaders who are kicking big collaborative working together goals. We will highlight the successful partnerships, shedding light on the positive impact they have had on both businesses and the community. Welcome to Bundaberg aims to improve the health and well-being, work and lifestyle outcomes for people living in Bundaberg by activating and implementing a range of community-led strategies across a range of services for a more connected, cohesive community. Let's go. Before we start today's episode, I would like to acknowledge country. I would like us to take a moment to reflect on the meaning of place and connection. In the spirit of reconciliation, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we live, work and love on. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging of all the lands, and I extend that respect to all First Nations peoples listening today. Okay, so today we're here with Luke Sinclair from CQU in Bundaberg. Luke, please tell us about yourself, what your role is, what you do out there at the university.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks. It's great to be here. Luke from CQUniversity. I work across Bundaberg, Wide Bay Burnett region, and also the Gladstone region as well. So my title is the Associate Vice President, and in university we have a few interesting titles there, but essentially means I'm the head of campus for those two regions. And I'm our kind of CEO or Vice Chancellor's representative in the region. So my role is quite diverse. I get to sort of play around in a few different things, which is quite exciting. Anywhere from business development, stakeholder engagement, whether that's government relations, industry, schools, community, and try and make those connections so that we can either, get more students or gain connections and develop research opportunities, or look at what courses we don't have that we could potentially bring on scope. So there's that. There's obviously the campuses as such, the infrastructure. So I work with our facilities group and other areas of the university. And then there's also the pastoral care for our students and staff. And I have the privilege of making sure everyone's safe and sound as well.
Wow, that's massive. That's a huge role. And not only Bundaberg, but all of those out to region areas, Wide Bay, right up to Gladstone.
Yeah, and very different. So, Gladstone campus, it's quite trade, industry based there. That's the majority of our students. We're a dual sector university. So we do everything in the certificate space, trades, business, all different vocational products, right up to PhD as well. So Gladstone's a little bit different to Bundaberg, but equally, great opportunities across a variety of different things.
Yeah, wow, that's good. It's good to have, I guess, that cross section within our region, and Gladstone's only a few hours away, so it's not too far. If something's not offered here or in the Wide Bay, it's offered there.
Yeah, and I mean we've got a national footprint, the university, so we've got campuses up in Cairns, Townsville, Mackay, Rocky, Gladstone, obviously here in Bundy, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and then we're a part of study centres across the nation as well.
Yeah, cool. Well, I asked you to come and join us today because we're working on a series called Community Centred Solutions, and it's really about highlighting the really great things that are happening in our region, the positive stories, the partnerships that go into those positive stories, and really focusing on the collaboration aspect of how can we do better in our region and what's working really well. So today I wanted to ask you in particular about a project or a story or an initiative that you've worked on. And where it's been really engaging and exciting, and you've had really fantastic results as part of a supportive collaboration or partnership.
Yep.
Share.
Yeah, no, very happy to, and very timely, very topical. So I think one of the things with us is because we're in a lot of regions and there's a lot of different organisations that we get to be involved in a lot of different collaborative projects. There's a great one at the moment with University of Queensland, YBA HHS, CQUHHS, and ourselves, which is around developing the regional medical pathway. So that's one that we do. But one that I wanted to talk about today was our accelerated arts project that we're working on. Extremely exciting, and I think it's still quite early days. We're in the pilot phase. We're partnering with the Bundaberg Regional Council. Regional Arts have provided a grant. We've been working in the space for about 18 months, getting close to 2 years now. COVID sort of delayed a few bits and pieces there. But it's essentially around, and a few different areas within CQU as well. So our Access Ed area, which does our fantastic STEPS program, which is essentially skilling people, whether they've left school early or left school without the ATAR they needed, or have been out of school for 10 years or so and looking for a career change and want to get back in something. So they do some amazing things there. Also our School of Education and the Arts, so think of education training, Bachelor of Arts, digital media, theatre, creative writing, and a range of other things in there as well. So internally we've had a few players. So what we've looked to do is partner with some of the local high schools as well. So we've had Bundy North, Bundaberg High, Kepnock and Shalom as well that have come on board this year, which has been fantastic. And it's around getting kids, students, young people onto our campus 1 day a week. We've started off with a prep skills for university unit that they do, and that gets them familiar with our systems, gets them familiar with how university life is. And then they pathway into what we call SUN units, so Start Uni Now. And there's a select group of units, and the students have helped co-design this, which has been really important. And they've picked units that they are passionate about to pathway into. So they've done creative writing, and they're just about to start next term in the visual arts fundamentals in the digital media space. And really, it's around breaking down some barriers. A lot of the students that we've had probably haven't considered tertiary study as an option. A lot of them wouldn't have had a parent that did go to TAFE or university, and it's really around breaking down that barrier and saying, come on to campus, it's bricks and mortar and we've got some human beings. And that's probably the first barrier. The second barrier is, we've got a pretty calming sort of environment out at our campus, a lot of bushland, and we've engaged with some First Nations experts as well. So Robert McClellan, who's been amazing, Nicole Wan has been in there as well, and we have Dylan Sarah as well. So we've sort of, integrated a few different things there. And I guess the other part of it is giving them that success in a really supportive environment, and where they can use our learning management system, or they can engage with curriculum or help co-design their own assessment, and then we do some artists and residents. And just seeing the feedback and the growth of the students in early days already has been phenomenal. And the testimonials of when we asked them when they started, have you considered it university or tertiary? And it was pretty much, no, it's not for me, I don't think I can do that. And now they're talking about a range of disciplines that they'd love to pursue. It may not be higher education, as in university, it might be in the vocational path, and it might be something unrelated to the arts, it might be nursing or something like that, but it's been success because they get to see, I think what some people sort of say, you can't be what you can't see kind of thing. So I guess that's been a really amazing project to be a part of.
Yeah, it sounds so good, because there's so many different organisations, government agency, schools, so education, all working within, they're all trying to do the best that they can with the people that are in their community and within their bubble. But what I can see with this project is that it's opened the door to have that conversation with those high schools, and then with the council, and then with someone from a funding body, to all be a part of that success. So what was the best part, I guess, of working with those different places to make this thing happen?
I think with any collaborative project, everyone brings a strength to the party, and I guess different insight or different angles, and everybody wants a different outcome. And I guess the the part of it is, council have got some great assets, great pieces of infrastructure in Moncrief, the museum and different things like that. So having access to that has been really good. Having access to some of their staff and their experts in that space has been great, and I think it's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we can do moving forward. The funding body, great. Funds can help make things happen a hell of a lot easier and a hell of a lot quicker than if you've got to sort of bootstrap it yourself. So, and the whole angle was having a First Nations angle and into the arts space as well. So using the hook of the arts, how broad it can be, to get those kids excited. And then obviously internal. So we've got our experts in that Access Ed who can unlock, help build resilience, help people set goals, and really give them the confidence to go, yeah, you can do this. We might need to think about it a little bit differently, or we may need to scaffold your learning a little bit differently over there. So that's been, and then obviously our internal experts who play in that art space as well. So I think everybody bringing their collective strengths together, that's how, that's the special sauce that I think. And then, most importantly, the schools and the school kids and the parents as well. It doesn't happen without them. Schools want to get those outcomes for the students, and the students they've taken a bit of a risk, so that's step one. And then obviously the families to support them, because the students have still got to do what they're doing back at school, and they're doing this program as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what do you look for? So with this project or others that you've worked in or with, what do you look for in terms of a good partnership? What does that mean to you?
I think you've got to be pretty open about what you want to achieve. So whether that's you as the individual, or whether that's the organisation that you're representing, and go, these are the outcomes that we are hoping to achieve, but also being comfortable with the fact that it may not be exactly that, it might be a version of that, but it still can be success for everybody. So I think having those open and honest conversations, and there were some tough time constraints, some tough logistical constraints there, and a bit of a call out. If any, we're still looking for other partners as well. Anyone who's got a passion for the arts, we'd love to have a chat about that. Logistics is a tricky thing. Getting a kid's bus, we didn't want transport to be a barrier, and we were lucky with the funding. But that funding won't last forever. So, I'm sure there's plenty of latent buses sitting around Bundaberg that could pick some kids up from school and bring them out to university one day a week. But I think putting it out on the table, being open and saying this is what we would like to achieve or what we think we could achieve, and then try and, almost like that Venn diagram, finding that happy part in the middle there where we all achieve what we would like to.
What do you think were the main, the key elements contributing to the value and the success of that project?
I think people having a bit of one of our values is can do. You could probably switch that in terms of maybe a bit of an innovation sort of space, and we did talk about that. But I think people being prepared to take a little bit of a risk, because we haven't really done it this way before. We offer some units, and the expectation is that the students in high school do that off their own bat, and even internally having my colleagues sort of say, okay, yeah, let's try that, let's support that, let's see what that's like. So I think being prepared to take a bit of a risk, being prepared to think a bit differently. How do you line up all the logistics of X amount of schools, of a university, procuring a bus company, the council as well, how do we fit into all those things, and just being prepared to say, we know there's something good that can come of this, so maybe we've got to just adjust things a little bit so that we can be a part of it. Yeah,
and I think what you've just said there is pretty much a common theme from guests that we've had on. They're always talking about, making sure that there's open communication, that the expectations of the project are adaptable and, quite fluid with what it might achieve, and that there's always going to be some unexpected great things that happen, as well as what we actually need it to do. what did you learn about yourself, or how has this experience maybe shaped you going to future things?
I think, dealing with, working with people, everyone's different, and you've got to, definitely appreciate the strengths of what's involved there, and it sort of challenges. People might be thinking, these are my expectations, or this is the expectation about this is how we want to do it. So I think it's, I think I learn this every day and probably most people do working with people, is sometimes you've got to, for me, you might need to check your ego a little bit at the door and go, hey, it's not going the way that I thought it was going to go, but I just need to maybe take a step back, relax, and there's still good things that are sort of happening along the way. So that's probably from a personal point of view. From the project point of view, I think it's opened up the possibility of how do we then look at other pathway opportunities. So it may not just be in the arts space, the creative arts sort of space. There's no reason we couldn't look at the health space. There's no reason we couldn't look at the engineering and manufacturing space or the ag space. And I guess it's about the kids in that sort of bell curve right in the middle who may not be going ATAR, which is totally okay. And we're certainly not saying you've got to go to university as such, but there's linkages to the industry. There's linkages to mentors and people that can shape you and help you think about different possibilities. So that for me has been a learning, and we've been reflecting on that in the last couple of weeks. What could this look like in 2025? What could this look like in 2026? How do we align it to what's happening in this region? And it might be, like I said, it's the hook of the creative arts. And I know we've got a couple of kids who are amazing creative writers, amazing visual artists. That may not be their 100% career right off the bat. It might be something they do as a bit of a side hustle, but at the same time, it's a passion that they have. But they kind of go, hey, I didn't realise it, and they might have gone, walked past our nursing labs or had a chat to a nursing student or one of our career sort of people out there. And they're going, I'd really like to look at occupational therapy. And it's like, okay, cool, let's make an introduction. Let's see what comes of that conversation. So I think it's just being able to spend time and have those conversations as well.
And I was going to ask you, what does the future look like? And you've pretty much answered a bit of that. But, if you think about the projects and the work that you're doing now, what's the ideal future look like? What does the ideal, 5-10 years look like for you?
In what respect?
In the work that you're doing now, I guess you talked about replicating or scaling those particular collaborative projects. What does that mean for the overall community within Bundaberg particularly, and the projects that you're working on now?
Yeah, so we do a lot of working closely with different agencies that play in that regional development, economic development space. We know that people that go on to further study, whether that's vocational, whether that's higher education, there is a regional development multiplier. And there's better outcomes, not just for them. And I'm a big believer, people talk about what's your why. For me, why I get up and go to work every day is I know that education changes lives. And it doesn't mean you have to have a bachelor's degree. It could be, having a conversation with someone who's been there and done that, and that then makes you think about a little bit differently. Might open up a different door that you haven't considered. And it's not just for you as the individual. It's for your siblings, your parents, your caregivers, your neighbours, your uncles, your aunties. It's just got this multiplier effect. So for me, it's around how do we provide that extra little bit of support, particularly from, I think, students that are really in that sort of grade 9, grade 10 space, that at that point, that's one of those critical sort of cliff points where what am I sort of doing? And it's pretty hard to make that decision at that point in time. I mean, a lot of us probably still wonder what we're doing, when you get above 30 and 40 and that type of thing. But how do we just be able to have those conversations, and not in an environment where it's so data driven and it's so assessment and outcomes driven, but how can we do it, one-on-one, really personalised, really supportive, and go, hey, you're considering this? Well, let's have a bit of a look at down this sort of pathway, and what does that look like? You're passionate about that. Let's harness that passion and let's move it forward. So I guess the future for me is how do we, really get this creative arts sort of space going. That helps the community be more vibrant as well. We've got, I know there was one of the students mentioned, I'd love to go on and do jewellery making. We had another that we're looking at being, potentially tattoo artists as well. All these different bits and pieces. We had some creative writers. No doubt a couple of them or more will go on and write amazing, books into the future. So that's one piece of a region. And then we look at, let's look at the health and the health science, medical science. Let's look at the engineering, manufacturing. So that's where I'd love to see it potentially go. And bringing in and schools and looking at some of those models where, we could work really closely with schools, and students might come out to our campus 2 or 3 days a week, and then they're with their school for 2 or 3 days a week. And that's cool. And it's kind of that village raising that child, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great vision for the future, because I think we are seeing that change within education and with our younger generations coming through, to sit inside a classroom for 6 or 7 hours, 5 days a week is pretty boring. And if they can have the opportunity to explore different ways and see what they maybe haven't seen before, then we can really change the future of where they might land in our community and how they can contribute to the community.
Yeah, definitely.
Going kind of back to, working together and being in a collaborative partnership, what would you say to someone who's maybe never worked that way before, that they've kind of perhaps always been able to work and achieve what they need to achieve without having to involve other people, or maybe just within their own organisation? And, there are some things that we do within our own organisations where we do that because that's the way we've always done it. But I'm thinking about, perhaps people or organisations who do need some help, and maybe they're looking at your university and going, hey, if I approach them, would this be something that they might be interested in? How do they go about doing that? Like, what's the first steps for them to look at you guys and say, this is an idea I've got, what do you think?
Yeah, there's probably a few things now. I mean, obviously reach out, probably either give me a call or email, or let's line up a chance to catch up over coffee or something like that. Sometimes it could be thinking about what, the proposal that you've got or the idea that you've got, and what does that mean from a timing point of view, from a budget point of view. What are you asking? What are your expectations? We do our best to partner as well as we can, but there are instances where, it just may not be possible with us or for us, or how we could work together. But maybe there's opportunities where we could connect with someone else who might be a little bit more agile, a little bit more able to accommodate something like that. But I think first and foremost, we've got that ability to be a facilitator or a connector as well, if we're not the end game. And it might not be, that one-on-one partnership, but it might be, that's not a bad idea. We could support that. We may not drive that, but hey, how about we go and chat to the council, or how about we chat to this other startup that's kind of doing something that might be complementary. So, and be patient as well. Sometimes it's not the first interaction you have that nails the deal. It might need a few more conversations to sort of start to get some momentum.
I think one of the things that I see a fair bit of is some people or some businesses or organisations might be too apprehensive to actually go and take that first step to have those conversations. But it's really nice to hear from you and from other leaders in our organisation who have that open door. Just give me a ring. I'm happy to have a chat to you, or and if I'm not the right person, I'm sure that I can point you in the right direction of who that other person might be, or
definitely.
That other organisation could be for you. That's something that I hear a fair bit of, particularly from smaller organisations who may not think that they've got enough clout to make a difference. So it's really good to hear from leading organisations in Bundaberg to know that they have that open door.
Yeah, and look, it can be so different for different people and organisations. It might be a case of they might need a place and a space to, run a workshop. And we've got some fantastic facilities there. I'd love to see more and more things happening in there. It's the community's university. Got some fantastic lecture theatres and flat floor teaching spaces and things like that. And we're always keen to work in with different groups. It might be that. It could be a conversation where there's, we've got a humanitarian engineering is a new discipline that we've driving, particularly at the Bundaberg campus. There could be a great connection there where it might be a conversation that just unlocks or connects to something else. So it could be something small that really, really helps. Equally, it could be a larger, sort of bigger conversation where we bring in a few different people as well. So there's no harm in catching up and having a chat. You never know unless you have a conversation.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed, doing these interviews with different organisations and people is that there's quite a lot of people who are working in partnership with groups, and there's a lot of crossover. Yep. There's a lot of crossover between who's working with who and why, and it'd be really great to see some more integration from a whole community approach. Yeah. And I'm sure that every community wants that we all want to make Bundaberg a great place to live and work and retire in eventually.
Yeah, and I mean, living in the regions, I think you have to adopt that approach. Everyone's got to sort of play a little bit of a part, and I think that enhances it, enhances whatever the sort of the case may be.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today. Do you have any final words you'd like to add to our conversation that we maybe didn't hit on today?
No, I think we've sort of nailed the bits and pieces that we wanted to explore. I think just reach out and have a chat.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will put all of Luke's contact details on this post, so you can get your phone ringing hot with people who are wanting to reach out.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for sticking around to the end of this episode. If you would like to listen to future episodes, you can follow or subscribe to Welcome to Bundaberg on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok @Welcome to Bundaberg.